And now we begin the focus of our Unit 5 Objective 3. The focus is actually asking us to write the full equation given various word problems. So here we'll begin with an example problem. It says if you sell 100 t-shirts per week when the price is $10 and $200 t-shirts per week when you lower the price to $8, then a linear relationship exists and an equation can be formed using the data points. Okay? It gives us a little hint here to help us work with this problem, and I have to explain this hint because we haven't discussed this yet. It says, remember the number of t-shirts sold depends on the price. What we need to know is that X variables are considered our independent variables and Y are our dependent variables. So the way to help us work with this is we have a key concept that we need to know. When we're told that a certain variable depends on the other, we need to understand that that's telling us what's Y and what's X. And the way it would be worded is that Y depends on the X variable, or the X value. So let's keep that in mind and reread this so we can see which variable is our X and which variable is our Y. And so in that last statement it says, remember, the number of t-shirts sold depends on the price. So it's the Y value that depends on the X. So the number of t-shirts sold is the one that depends on the price. So our Y value is our number of t-shirts sold. And our X value is what it depends on. In this case, it depends on the price. So this is a situation where we're given two data points. If I go back into the problem and read the type of data I'm given and identify what goes together, I can set up these 2 points. It says if you sell 100 t-shirts per week when the price is $10. Okay, that is a corresponding set of data. Then we have a second set of data. It says you would sell 200 per week, that's 200 of our t-shirts, when you lower the price to $8. And so those two pieces of data go together. And as we keep them together, they create our points. So using the green, it groups 100 t-shirts with a price of $10. Our X is our price and our Y is our t-shirts. So we want to put our X value first, the $10, and the number of t-shirts second as our Y, the 100. That takes care of our first data value, our first set of points. And then our second point comes from the data that we have 200 t-shirts sold per week when you lower the price to $8. So again, X is our cost of the t-shirts, the price, which is $8, and Y is our number of t-shirts sold, the $200, or 200 t-shirts. So from that, we can find our rate of change, our slope. In this case, since we have 2 points, we need to use our slope formula. The space is tight, so please write small. We're going to find our slope by doing our change in Y over change in X. So we have our X1, Y1, and our X2, Y2. So we'll do Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. Simplifying that fraction, we get down to negative 50. Now this is our slope. In our problem, we need to think about what this means so we can really understand it. Our slope is negative 50. Our 2 unknowns, our 2 variables we're working with, is price and t-shirts. Remember, it's change in Y over change in X. So it's our change in number of t-shirts over our change in price. And so what this is telling me is that the number of t-shirts sold decreases by 50 for every dollar we increase the price. Okay, it's the cost per dollar, since that's our unit for price. It's our number of t-shirts, that we decrease by per dollar. And now it says using the data points and the slope, write the equation. So we have our slope, it's 50. We have 2 data points. I'm going to go ahead and use my first one to solve this. And so we put that into our point slope form. Y minus our Y1 in this case our y1 is 100, equals our slope, negative 50, times x minus our x value, our x1 point, which is 10. As I work through and solve that, we need to distribute first. Y minus 100 equals distributing negative 50x, and then negative 50 times the minus 10. So it's a negative and a minus. That's going to be plus 500. Okay, our last step in solving for y is adding 100 to both sides. Again, make sure on the right side you add 100 to the other constant, not to the term with the x. And we get y equals negative 50x, and then adding 500 and 100 plus 600. Now we have an equation to represent our scenario for our t-shirt sales depending on the price. Now we're going to answer a question in relationship to this particular scenario. It says if you drop the price to $6.50, how many t-shirts will you sell? Well, we need to be careful about what each variable represents. If we go back, x is our price. So here, this price is our x. We want to know how many t-shirts, that's our unknown, and number of t-shirts is our y. So we know our x, we don't know our y. Let's substitute in our x and find our y. Y equals negative 50 times our x, in this case it's 6.50, and then plus 600, completing that equation. As we simplify and find the value of that, we get 275. Okay, keeping in mind what the question asks, it says how many t-shirts will you sell, and y was our number of t-shirts. We find that we sell 275 t-shirts. Okay. All right, we're going to continue on with another example. For example 2, we're actually working with information given in a table. The data in this table shows the cost of renting a bicycle by the hour, including a deposit. If hours, which in this problem is written as H, were graphed on the horizontal axis and the cost C were graphed on the vertical axis, what would be the equation of a line that fits the data? Okay, let's think about what that told us. First of all, it says the hours is going to go on the horizontal axis. Remember, horizontal is across, and that is our x-axis. So we're actually going to allow our hours to be our x. And then the cost is graphed on the vertical axis. That's the one going up and down. That's our y-axis. So we're going to allow our cost to be the y. Then we're going to go ahead and be able to work with this information and write the equation of the line. If we think about this situation, we need to ask ourselves, does the cost depend on the number of hours, or does the number of hours depend on the cost? I think it's a little bit more logical that the cost for renting the bicycle would depend on how many hours we actually have this bicycle rented. And again, it's y depends on x. So the x is our hours. That's what what the our independent variable is. Sorry, the x is our independent variable. And the y is our dependent variable, and that is our cost. Now it asks us to write an equation of the linear model. Now our data isn't given in the word problem, our data is given in the table. Remember, we need 2 data points. Here we're given 3, but we only need 2. So we're going to go ahead and just choose 2. I'm going to do the first and the second. Okay? I'm going to use these 2 points to first, as always, the one thing we need to find at first for each time we write an equation is the slope. So we're going to do our y2 minus y1. Now here's our x's, here's our y's. I'll call this one the y1 and this one the y2, and our x1 and x2. So we have an x1, y1 and x2, y2. So we have 30 minus 15 for our y2 minus y1, And our x2 minus x1 is 5 minus 2. Okay, simplifying this fraction, we get 15 halves. Now to write the equation, we use our slope and one of the points. I'll go ahead and use the first one. So we have y minus the y value equals the slope, m, times x minus the x1. And then working to solve for y, we distribute. And then we get y alone by adding 15 to both sides. And our equation becomes y equals 15 halves x, and negative 15 and positive 15 add up to 0, so I don't need to put a plus 0, and we just simply get the equation y equals 15 halves x. Now we have one question we're going to answer in relationship to this problem. It says if you rented a bike for 7 hours, how much would it cost? Okay, let's go back to our variables. X is the hours, so we're given our x value. We want to know our cost. So substituting our x value in for x, we get y equals 15 halves times our x value 7. Now this is a cost. So when we do that multiplication, we want to give our answer as in the form money would be, which is a decimal form. And so we get the price $52.50. That is the cost for renting our bicycle. Okay, at this point I'd like you to pause your video. Or actually, in just a moment I'm going to have you pause your video. I want to give you a little hint before you start working on these next problems. You are going to do the next problem on your own. It is a U-try. But I want to give you a little bit of a hint before you get going too far. So let's read it together. It says the pool fund company has learned that by pricing a newly released fun noodle at $3, which is they're giving us a hint, that's our X, sales will reach 5,000, which is our Y, for those fun noodles a day during the summer. Raising the price to $4 will cause sales to fall to 4,000 of the fun noodles each day. Assume the relationship between sales and the number of fun noodles sold is linear. Okay, reading this word problem, we're asking ourselves, is this a scenario where I'm given a slope and a starting value, or is this a scenario where I'm given 2 data points? Well, if I go back, I start to see. It says $3, the fun noodles, if I sell them at a cost of $3, the sales will reach 5,000. If I increase that price to $4, my sales will fall to 4,000. We're given 2 sets of data. This is a situation where we have 2 data points. So before you start the problem, I want you to identify those 2 points. Fill in, oops, that should be an and. Fill in your 2 ordered pairs that you're going to use to write the equation. Okay, at this point, I want you to pause the video and I want you to solve this problem. So this problem right here on your note sheet. Okay, so go ahead and press pause at this point in time and take this time to go ahead and solve the note sheet, or this problem in your note sheet. Okay, hopefully that went well. To check your answer, here is the actual answers. You should have a lot more work than this. If your answers do not match these, please pause the video again and please raise your hand so that you can work through this with one of the instructors. So this is again your chance to make sure you get the individual help that you need. So if you did not get these answers, it is your responsibility to take the time to ask for some help. Okay, at this point, hopefully these went well and hopefully these are the answers that you have. Okay, we're going to continue on with the next problem.